Hi ASP students, it's Mark here with more Show Me videos. Covering the warm-up today and the cool-down will be in a separate Show Me video to follow this one. The warm-up and cool-down were examined for a 10 marker in January 2012. So they may not be a hot topic for a 10 marker as such, but we believe as a department that they could well come up in short answer formats, so 2, 3, 4, 5 mark answers. Let's get started. As you can see, you've got three diagrams on the left of your screen. A lady jogging, an American footballer doing some stretching, and some basketball players doing some shooting drills. And this covers the three stages of a warm-up. So number one, up here by the lady running, is the light jog or cardiovascular exercise. And this increases heart rate gradually. That's the key term, so heart rate increase. Stage one. It's sub-maximal, so it's not maximal sprinting, which you do see young children tending to do. It should be a jog and at light intensity. Could be on a bike, could be on a rowing machine, for example. The next stage are called dynamic stretches. So these are not your old-fashioned holding your quadricep muscle behind you as you lean on a wall. These are movement-based stretches. And the lady here, as you can see with my arrow, is working on her trapezius muscle at the base of the neck. And it's quite a dangerous stretch, but it would be specific to American football to prepare those muscles for action. Leg swinging exercises are another one, or lunges are a perfect example of the dynamic stretches. So phase 2 is dynamic stretching. Phase 3 is sport-specific skills or techniques. Now this looks quite relaxed in this photo, but a lot of the players would have done stages 1 and 2 already, and now they're looking at stage 3. So they'd be doing shooting, layups, passing drills, preparing the neuromuscular system, so the nerves, to fire their signals to the muscles more effectively. So let's go over that again. Phase 1 at the top, light jogging or cardiovascular exercise, sub-maximal, to increase the heart rate and prepare the body. Phase 2, dynamic stretching, to ensure that the body is prepared, or the muscles are prepared, for the movements of sport, which are all explosive movements often. And number 3 is the sport-specific drills and techniques, often the phase that a lot of people jump into straight away, having missed out phases 1 and 2. Okay, now duration, really, you should be saying between 20 and 40 minutes. It's a long duration to make sure the body is prepared for exercise. Obviously, it is really important for asthmatics as it prepares the body for the exercise to come. So it is really, really important for asthmatics. It prepares the lungs and so they're ready for the demands of exercise. So a key point is for asthmatics as well. The warm-up is really important. Okay, so we now need to look at a specific area for the skeletal muscle. So we've done general reasons, and we're now looking at skeletal muscle. So for this, I'm just going to clear the screen. Hopefully this will work. There we go. The screen is now cleared, and we're looking at skeletal muscle. So first of all, it's going to be a decreased risk of injury. Okay, so that's a key term you can get down. You're going to increase muscle temperature. Now that would be a basic point. You might want to use the term increased elasticity. Remember, that's an A-level term. So you increase the elasticity of the skeletal muscle tissue. And you increase the range of movement at a joint. So all key terms there. So for example, if you were to warm up prior to swimming, your range of movement around the shoulder joint would be greatly increased. Another one that people don't often remember is that you increase the speed of the nerve impulses. To the muscle. and that obviously prepares them to contract and be able to cause the body to move. This is particularly important if you were a sprinter, for example. Okay, so for a sprinter, and that would also be specifically the type 2B type muscle fibers. So it's obviously important for all muscle fibers, but you want speed of nerve impulses to be the most rapid if you want to be sprinting at your most effective pace. Okay, so that's the key terms for the muscular tissue. If I just clear that now for you and go on to another sheet now, we're looking at the vascular system. So that's just written there for you. So, some typical terms coming out here are quite tricky for students to gain a hold of and gain a grasp of. So, the vascular shunt mechanism. And you'll remember this from your A&P lessons. Now just think, where do you want blood to be going when you're exercising? Now obviously as an athlete you want it to be going to your skeletal muscle. So you'd want to be getting some terms in here to do with vasoconstriction, and vasodilation. Now, obviously the vascular shunt mechanism will be covered in more detail in a separate show me. But remember, it's about increasing blood flow to the skeletal muscle and decreasing blood flow to the organs. Now for organs you could have the kidneys, for example. So it's about making sure that blood is redistributed. There it is. So redistribution is a key term of blood, so that rather than be going to the organs that aren't as crucial during exercise, more blood, more oxygen, more nutrients are being diverted to the skeletal muscles. Okay, so really, really important to be able to talk about that in quite some detail. Some further detail for the vascular system. You might want to mention the terms of venous return, so you ensure that you get more blood coming back to the heart, so that you get increased stroke volume. And you remember this law is Starling's law. So Starling's law, increased venous return equals increased stroke volume. So more blood coming back, as in here, to the heart, or being returned, will mean that you have a greater potential for pumping blood out of the heart. It's quite obvious really. Coming back to your pump, you better then pump out more. And these obviously mechanisms of this venous return are your muscle pump, pocket valves, and your respiratory pump. There we go. So those mechanisms will be working more effectively, and ultimately you are getting increased O2 to the muscles because of more blood flow. That is your absolute gem of a term right there. So key terms. And one more term really, if I just clear that off there, just to make sure this kind of ends around the sort of 10-minute mark. I'll take that off there. You also get this term of increased dissociation of O2 at the muscles. Think release. Dissociation is release of oxygen at the muscles. Now obviously you want to have more oxygen being released at the muscles, and this is largely due to, let's change the colour, this is due to an increase in muscle temperature, obviously while you warm up, to increase your muscle temperature, so that you get more oxygen being released at your muscles. And further to that, when you start exercising, obviously you start to produce more CO2, and this decreases the pH of your blood. Now that is a crucial term because it links to something called the Bohr shift, which you will have or will cover in your A&P lessons. It's where that's that strange graph that you'll look at that you almost read right to left. And with that Bohr shift, that causes more oxygen to be dissociated, up here at the top, earlier to your muscles. And that can't be a bad thing when our muscles, are loving oxygen in order to work effectively. So those are a lot of terms in relation to the warm-up, and hopefully you'll be able to use that effectively to gain some key hot terms for a warm-up answer. I'll be back with a cool-down show me very soon. Thanks guys.